Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Sanja Licina. Sanja is here to discuss with us all of the wonderful things that we can help you to master your customer experience. Her goal in life is to help make people happier. Most of us spend so much of our lives working, and there is still a tremendous opportunity to help people feel better connected to their companies, to their colleagues, and to feel passionate to make a difference with their work. So she's dedicated her career to helping companies create a culture that employees love to be part of. She's been fortunate to travel to over 60 countries and lives on 3 continents. And through this journey meets the most amazing, inspirational, and passionate people. Collaborating this incredibly diverse group has given her even more confidence that together she can make a difference. Those who know her are aware of her deep passion for data and technology, which will be a key to helping all of us transform the world of work. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Sanja. Welcome, Sanja.
Thank you so much, Yannick. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Awesome. All right. Now, even though we read your bio, that basically gives us a summary of what you do, but we love to hear from our guests in their own words a little bit about how they got to where they are today.
Oh, well, thank you for that opportunity. So, as you mentioned, I've had a privilege of living on 3 different continents, and I'm actually talking with you right now out of Buenos Aires, Argentina. I was born and raised in Belgrade, Serbia, and spent about half of my life in the United States. And so, for me, I have had this incredible pleasure of interacting with so many different people in my life path, both personally and professionally. And so my profession, I'm an organizational psychologist, and I actually currently am president of a business unit called the Workforce at a company called Question Pro. And we also have a customer experience business unit. So in my life, I feel like I've had, again, this personal/professional intersection where I have a pleasure of working for an organization that's not only helping people feel seen and valued at work, but also has this tremendous focus on customer experience, because we're all that, the same thing. We don't look at the person and say, okay, you're an employee now, but now later, 5 minutes later, you're a customer only, and then maybe you're going to be an employee again. We really, of course, are all of these things, and additionally, kids and parents and spouses and a million other things. So I think I look at that life experience, and I just have this huge passion for helping people be seen and really helping organizations, whether it's from customer experience or employee experience, understand the why behind people's behaviors and people's needs. Because I think when we understand that is really when we have this tremendous opportunity to provide people with better cultures, with better services, with better products, platforms, etc. So I could go on, but I'll turn the mic back over to you. Thank you for, an opportunity to share a little bit more about myself and why we're having this conversation today.
Awesome. So you mentioned I mentioned in your bio, as well as you mentioned just now in giving us a little overview of who you are, that you are attached to an organization called Question Pro. So could you share with our listeners what is Question Pro and how does that really dovetail or, fit into the whole customer experience puzzle? How can that help? How does your company help customer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had this incredible pleasure of actually about 15 years ago being a customer of Question Pro and using their survey technology to better connect with people who were looking for jobs, looking for different opportunities in the organization. And today, and I sit on the other side because, again, my experience was so positive as a customer that I thought I'd love an opportunity to actually join and help Question Pro have an even wider reach and work with more organizations. And so when it comes to customer experience, again, Question Pro has multiple different divisions, and we're also really big in market research. So we have access to over 40 million people worldwide to really be able to understand consumer behaviors, employee behaviors, purchasing, whatever it is that an organization or a research institution is looking to solve. We have both the technology, the expertise, and helping them craft those questions, as well as the audience to really help them solve those challenges. And then we also have the CX and EX business units that really work seamlessly together. CX in particular, working with organizations again to understand how do we best connect with people that we're doing business with? How do we reach them in the point that we can get the best information around their perception of who we are as an organization, their satisfaction, and how do we interact? And then, of course, the EX part where it fills that, loop, because there's so much research where we see that how satisfied you are in your job, how connected you feel to the company's mission and vision, that has a huge impact on how you interact with customers. So we really, at Question Pro, look for these multiple ways to understand the world around us that, as we know, is just changing faster than it ever has before. And we have every reason to believe that that's just going to exponentially accelerate, and be able to give this holistic vision of what that customer experiences, not only in a way that person interacts with, a product or a platform or a brand, but really understand again from all of these different angles as an organization, what can our clients do better and differently to really give their customers a better experience. So it's all very much research based, data driven. And we really pride ourselves on creating these very empathetic conversations where we want, I was mentioning earlier the why. We want every person to feel seen, to feel heard, that when that conversation is happening, they really truly believe that the organization on the other end cares about them as an individual, not only about the consumer of, their product. And I think the more data we have and the more holistic understanding we have of that, the better off we'll be as a society, and the better off each one of our clients will be.
So Question Pro focuses a lot on market research. Could you share with us if your target is predominantly large companies, or let's say, for example, someone has an organization with 20 employees, but they have a pretty large customer base. Would your company be able to provide services for them as well? That's part A of my question. And then part B, in terms of market research, what are some key indicators or trends that you have noticed since you're already in this space? You have seen companies, or what do you think companies need to be focusing on in order to ensure that they're really tapping into the needs of their customers? Because sometimes a company offers something to a customer, but I think they're doing it for their own benefit and not necessarily what the customer actually wants or needs.
Yeah, well, both great questions. From a standpoint of what kind of organizations we work with, we actually span a very, very wide range. We even have, of course, we work with larger companies. However, we even have programs where we have free platforms, free programs for entrepreneurs, because we believe that really stand apart experience does not only sit with the largest organizations. It's everyone that wants to really bring a unique idea to the world, to the marketplace. They all are looking to have conversations with those individuals that they're looking to serve. And the better educated, the better targeted conversation you can have, the more quickly you can iterate on your product and on the way that you interact with your consumers to really make sure that what you're bringing out there is relevant, it's timely, and that you're adjusting it based on the market needs. So when it comes to part A of your question, when it comes to organizations, we really work, whether you have 20 employees or whether you have 200,000 employees, we work with those organizations. Now, when it comes to trends, I think I mentioned I'm an organizational psychologist, so research is at the heart of everything I do. Data is what drives my decisions. And I've been an organizational psychologist for quite a while. So I've seen during my studies, we mostly relied on survey data to really inform our research, understand what's going on. Since then, there's been an explosion of behavioral kind of data. There's just a lot more information available for organizations to make a decision, which is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what an incredible luxury for us to have. However, one of the things that I noticed a few years back is a lot of people very boldly saying, well, now that we have all this behavioral data, who needs surveys anymore? And I just thought this was even way before I worked for, at Question Pro. I just grabbed my heart and I thought, but what do you mean? These are to me, I call it empathy at scale. It's these conversations we can have with people at scale to understand what they need, to understand how they feel, to have them feel seen and heard. Behavioral data, again, is phenomenal and I would never discount it. But when you see how a person is acting, and oftentimes I'll compare that to, personal relationship. So for example, if my husband comes home and he's behaving a certain way, would I ever just, if I'm in a good relationship, would I not ask him what's going on? And I see this behavioral data, he must have had a bad day at work. Well, maybe it was his family. Maybe he's not feeling well. There could be all of these different reasons. And so a big part of the reason why I love what we do is we provide organizations a platform to have this conversation, to have it in a very humane way. And a lot of the trends that we're seeing and that we're also trying to influence is that, I remember again, back in the day, 20 plus years ago when I was getting my PhD, a lot of times surveys, I guess, for lack of a better word, were very surgical. You would ask somebody, based on your experience, how would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 5? But there's so much more humanity that could be entered into that. If you are interacting with any kind of product or platform, you're doing it for a reason. And so that organization has an opportunity to ask you, hey, what are you looking to accomplish for this? When you chose us, what was that reason? What are maybe some of your goals that you're looking to accomplish today? So maybe somebody is buying a piece of makeup and we assume that it's for something aesthetic for themselves, but maybe it was for a family member. Maybe it was, in a moment that they're working on self-improvement. There is so much that can be understood when you think of a person that you're interacting with as a human, as somebody, all of us, no matter how good of relationships we have, when you sit across, I will call it a table, even though it's, a virtual table, virtual survey, and you feel like somebody is asking you questions where they truly care about you, you'll never want to miss that conversation. And for the organizations on the other side, the amount of insights that you will get, not only about necessarily, a specific interaction that somebody had with one person in a store, but to open up that opportunity to have a conversation with someone. And we're seeing so many changes in the market. We're seeing changes in people's behavior. For example, I'll give you, and then I'll stop talking and I'll turn the mic back to you. I bought a piece of makeup recently and I ordered it online. And I did so because this never happened in my life, but I lost my entire makeup bag traveling back from New York.
Oh
And I thought,
no.
exactly. I thought, and I was pretty, calm about it. And I said, okay, let me, think about different pieces that I needed. And I ordered something online because my schedule is chaotic and I'm balancing, my work and my 4-year-old and my family and many different things. And I could have walked to the store, but I just didn't have a chance to. And so I ordered something online and unfortunately they sent me the wrong thing. It happens, not big of a deal. We'll figure it out. I went to the store. They said I needed a code to change it. Okay, I was a little sad. I thought, oh no, it's going to be this difficult. I came back and, they gave me an email to write to and I wrote and they wrote, somebody very nice wrote back and said, well, we're so sorry. We made a mistake. Right? Okay, well, here's a shipping label. If you could go to the print it out and go to the shipping store. And I said, I'm really sorry, but that's not going to work for me. I ordered this because I just don't have the time. And now you're asking me to, go to one place, print a label, go to another place and mail this, wait for it to come back home. And they came back and they said, okay, we'll make an exception. but in some ways that was a missed opportunity for a conversation. If they can know the location where I'm in, so it's that behavioral data, they see that I ordered something, the solution that they provided out of the goodness of their heart didn't make sense to me. But if they took that opportunity to just ask a few questions and say, hey, we're looking to solve your challenge. Can you just help us understand, what was the main reason you ordered online? They probably could have given me much quicker, a better solution without me being frustrated. So again, I think it's every time thinking about that individual that put trust in a brand that chose. We have so many options for everything these days, and it's so much easier to choose than it was ever before because so many things were online, so much advertising is online, so you're aware. Not only are there more options, but I think we're aware of more options than we ever were before. To ask those, like, what was the reason for something, to get to know a person a little bit better, you can start to build out that persona and at a scale have a better understanding of people. In one to one, how you have that conversation, how you collect the information will tremendously help build that relationship. So, anyways, you can probably tell I'm very passionate about what I do because I probably just talked for about 10 minutes straight. but,
That's good.
but I hope it's at least a little bit helpful.
Of course, definitely. Everything you said was just so valuable just now. Just really paying attention and being mindful and asking the right questions. And I say all the time that companies collect so much information from us from time to time, depending on the product or service that you're engaging with. And I don't find that they're really using that data to the best, to the fullest capacity. Sometimes they even ask questions to answers that they have already. And that just goes to show that they're not paying attention to the data that they're collecting. So it's good for you to put it in perspective like that and give us an example, because then it really brings it home, because it's not just about saying that I took your information, but what did I actually do with it? And if I was asking the right questions based on what was happening to you with the makeup situation, you would have probably gotten a way better solution, and definitely one that you would have been pleased with.
Absolutely.
All right, Sanja. Now, could you share with our listeners, how do you stay motivated every day? What makes you keep going?
Oh, there, you know, um, I am by nature a very positive person, a very optimistic person, a happy person. But I say even given that, I have my moments where I'm just tired or cranky. So we're all human. It's not easy to ride that high all the time. But to me, there are a couple of things. I think that first, if we keep in mind that, there are all of those like different cartoons about careers and staying motivated and the path to success and this ladder. And, there's one where you see a really, really long ladder and you feel like, oh, I'm never going to get there. But then you look back and you see how much you've accomplished. So there's actually a book that I'm halfway through now. It's called The Gap and the Gain, and it was written by two gentlemen, Dan Sullivan, and was with Dr. Benjamin Hard. It's a book about focusing on the things that you have accomplished more than the things that you have not accomplished yet. And it really resonated me to the point that I was actually at the hairdresser on Saturday, and I was starting to get tears in my eyes because of the stories that they were sharing. Just, I thought, if more people can think this way, if more people can really take a step back and understand, especially this happens not in the moments of celebration, right? In the moments of celebration and when something really great happens, you don't need to stay motivated. That celebration in itself might be enough. But in the moments when you just tried something and it didn't work, right? And we say, failure is so critical to success, but it's tough when it happens, and we need to talk ourselves, into a better space, and that's human. But one of the things that I really loved about this book is this reflection on taking the time and looking back at, what you have accomplished in the last month, in the last year, in the last 10 years. And I think if we do that more as people, and if we do that more systematically, I think each individual person will realize how much they have to celebrate. And it doesn't mean that we should not be motivated by goals. Of course, that's still important. But more often than not, when we're achieving those goals, we're going to have missteps. We're going to make bets on things that we're going to be sure are going to help us and realize they didn't. And it's in those moments to take a step back and say, okay, but what did I do? How much of a difference have I made? How many people have I maybe helped along the way? And how much did I help myself along the way? I think that is absolutely tremendously powerful. And I was actually talking with a colleague of mine, and he asked me, "Oh, but Sanya, like, do you feel like you can do that all the time?" And I said, "Asim, of course not. That's why I'm reading this book." Like, I'm still very much a work in progress. I think all of us are. But I think seeking out these ways to really help ourselves, especially during the moments that are challenging. And I think, I mentioned before that I do believe the world around us is changing so quickly. And what's sometimes hard about that is that things that we experimented with before or things that we've had success with before, a lot of times the circumstances around us have changed so much that if we repeat the exact same thing, we will not get that success. So it's not just about this mastery of, oh, I have experience, I'm older and wiser. But wait a minute, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years past since I tried the strategy, the world around me is very different. I can try it again, but if it doesn't succeed, I still need to have that passion and energy to try again. So I think really so much of it is about the mindset, but also people understanding that if something does happen that's not as successful as they expected it to be, to give themselves some time to feel that frustration, almost like the, 5, 10 minutes or however long it takes a morning, look back, reflect, and then go ahead again. I think that's really where my mind is these days. And again, I've enjoyed this book tremendously, and the mindset that it helps people develop. So I would say that would be one of the ways that I stay motivated.
All right, awesome. Thank you for sharing. Now, could you also share with our listeners what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
I was thinking about that question, and I thought as I looked at my phone, I thought, I have so many apps on my phone, and I have so many ways of communication. And, as we were saying earlier in our conversation, I've lived in so many continents, and I have people that I love in even more continents than where I've lived. So to stay up on news and research and everything, it requires quite a few. But I would say, the one publication that I really enjoy is Harvard Business Review. I think for my line of work, it's really powerful. I think the articles are very well thought out. It rolls into the application that I maybe use the most, and that's probably LinkedIn, which is not, nobody is going to sit in their chair and be like, wow, I've never heard of that one. Let me write it down. But, to me, I think I really like it because it summarizes a lot of my professional interests. Of course, a lot of times LinkedIn is, as good as the people you're connected with and people that you follow. So I try to make a very conscious effort that if I, read books from authors that I enjoy, if they happen to be on LinkedIn, I either follow them or connect with them. That I do the same for the publications that I enjoy, whether it's, again, the, Harvard Business Review or The Economist or any other ones. And then it's also interesting because, I have to admit that like a lot of other maybe social media platforms, you tend to connect with more like-minded individuals. So that's something to be careful about. I try to proactively connect with people or follow people who maybe have different experiences than me, maybe slightly different beliefs than me, because it's one place where I feel like I can get more in my professional life, more so than personal life, exposed to different ideas. Although more people are sharing things personally on LinkedIn, which I really enjoy. And I feel like it's one place that I can pop into every once in a while. And it increases my awareness of maybe, again, books that I should read or interesting articles or different viewpoints or, to your point, what's going on around the world, what are organizations doing, what are people researching. And I also love that it gives me a platform to share some of what I know back. So I probably consume information from LinkedIn a lot more than I share, but I try to hold myself accountable that whether it's a we do a lot of research at Question Pro, and that's one of the things, again, I enjoy most, even though really a big focus of my personal job is employee experience and working with organizations on that. I'm doing a lot of market research myself. And when I find information that I feel like, I haven't really come across this before, I think for somebody that's, in a similar practice as I am, would find this valuable. It also gives me a platform and a way to have a conversation. So I'm not just consuming the news and consuming the information, but I can also try to add value to those that I'm connected with as well. And that makes me feel really good. And of course, some things I share, I'm sure some people find a lot of value in, other things maybe a little less. But I love that feeling that I can actually contribute to the society as much as I'm taking back out of it. So again, it's not, I don't think anybody's writing this down as an application they've never heard of. But I do, and I've been very conscious about how I use it. And I have found a lot of value when I have limited time and I can't go to all the many applications that I have. I feel like to me, especially professionally, but even personally, it adds a lot of value.
Great. All right. Now, when we asked you how you stayed motivated, you did share one book with us. So since you gave us one already, maybe you can give us one more book that you believe has had the biggest impact on you. It could be a book you read a very long time ago, or even one that you read recently.
Yes, and I'm sure you believe it by now. I have a whole list next to me, but I'll summarize it. And I love, if you look at a lot of the books I have today are on Kindle because it's not as easy to find books in English in Argentina, and I'm a faster reader in it. So I have professional books. I have my what I call, quote unquote, somewhat guilty pleasures, but a lot of times they're really beautiful novels. And then I have kid development books. Today I will share the professional ones because I think probably for the audience they'll be maybe the most relevant. The one that's still somewhat recent, but I just absolutely loved, in line with our conversation, is Think Again by Adam Grant. The reason I say that is because there are so many people with such strong beliefs. And I think on the one hand, it's beautiful. And I think on the other hand, the more effectively we can open up our mind to other people's ideas and understand where they're coming from, the better we're going to be as individuals. And in many ways, one of the areas I'm really passionate about and I focus on is diversity and inclusion. And the best way that we can really connect with others, feel compassionate, feel empathetic, understand where they're coming from, is to take the time to understand their perspective, take the time to understand where they're coming from. To me, personally, it is so incredibly fulfilling as a human. But I think as a humanity, the more effectively we can do that, and the more effectively we can tell people why it's valuable to them, that it's not that somebody is going to talk with you to try to convince you that you're wrong, but that somebody wants to talk with you to give you an even better perspective, to give you even more knowledge, to give you a different view. It doesn't mean that you need to change your opinion, but that pretty much without fail, you're going to be a better person because of it. I think not only professionally, but as a humanity, the more effectively we can do that, we'll be in such a better place. So it is a relatively recent book. And it's, again, one of those concepts that when you hear it, maybe it's not like, well, Sanja, that's really earth shattering. But I think how we do it, how we approach it, and that I catch myself still, right? Like I catch myself being so strong in some of my beliefs. And I've realized over my lifetime that there were times that I was quick to judge someone. And there were times that I would have been a better friend, a better partner, a better leader if I would have just taken time to listen. I've gotten to the point that I'm trying to very consciously be much more open-minded in everything I do. Sometimes I need to be proactive about it. It still doesn't always come as naturally as I would like to. I think that's most things in life that we care about, we have to work on. But it's also how you approach it and how often you catch yourself that even if you believe, quote unquote, you're a certain kind of person, to do some self-reflection and say, am I really being that person consistently? Am I really showing up for the people that, I'm around, really being open-minded, really rethinking my stances, from very maybe large societal things to maybe even some small things and how we run our CX and EX programs. So I will just mention that one from my list. There are many more, but I think that was probably a good one.
Okay, great. So we'll have both those books in the show notes of this episode for those of our listeners that would like to tap into those awesome resources. Now, Sanja, could you share with us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people?
Oh, what a phenomenal question. And so I run a business, and a lot of course, how successful my business is comes down to revenue and comes down to, the number of clients we have. And so many times that's a north. But a lot of what, I'm reading about and I'm passionate about professionally and personally is how I impact those around me. And so there are different ways that I'm experimenting, being a leader first, and of course a parent and a spouse and everything in my personal life for those people that are, what I would call, I guess for a lack of a better word, my first degree connections, comes of utmost importance. And I want to, be a very, very, when they reflect back, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I want them to think of me as a person that had a positive influence on them. One of the things that I'm experimenting with, because I get asked a lot about myself, I get asked a lot about my career, my passions, and a lot of my life was not conventional. And a lot of the decisions that I've made, could be surprising to people around why would I make it at that stage of my life? How did if I made that decision, how did I still end up where I am today? How do I maintain that happiness? And so something that I'm thinking about, I actually have a podcast as well, where we reach a wider audience and we talk about, work-related issues and life-related issues. And so one of the things I'm thinking about is how much do I want to scale out that impact? Does it make sense to have a broader audience? Does it make sense to try to reach more people and motivate them? Or is it not even motivate them, but make them feel confident, make them feel excited about taking risks, make them feel excited about what's possible that they maybe thought they could never accomplish, but really truly they can. And I don't know. So that's one. It's a little high level, but I'm just thinking about it, from the sense of what's the best way to reach people in a very personal way. And like, we're saying things are changing, is it in the form of writing a book? Is it a form of continuing a show? Is it a form of, videos? But my aspiration is if any little thing that I say can actually leave people with a better feeling about themselves, I would love to be able to do that at a larger scale. And so I'm just going through the process of thinking, what is that best path now? So I will keep you posted. I don't have all the answers yet. It's a little bit of an experimentation time, but that's something that I've been reflecting on recently, and I feel I'm feeling more and more passionate about. So I think that'll be somewhat of my next big project.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing, Sanja. Now, our listeners would have tapped into this episode and they're quite intrigued with your journey and where you're going and what you're doing, and they'd like to connect with you. Where is the best place that they can find you online?
Yeah, so I have this very good fortune of having a quite unique name. So if you look for me on LinkedIn, and if you just look for Sanja Licina for that handle, you'll find me. And again, I share personal information there. I share professional information there. I'm not as great on Twitter. I am there, but I think if you follow me there, you will be greatly disappointed. So I would say that probably LinkedIn is the best. And I would say for anybody that, some of what I shared resonated with them, or they would love to share some of their story with me or connect, I would absolutely love that. So look for me on LinkedIn, connect, and it would just be an absolute pleasure to have a conversation.
All right. Sounds good. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track if for any reason you get derailed, or, just get you back on track with what you're working on. Do you have a quote like that?
Yeah, so you won't be surprised based on the books that I was just mentioning and some of what keeps me motivated. It changes over time and it changes based on what I'm experiencing at the moment. Right now, one that really resonated with me, and again, this is, personal and professional, is be thankful for you are now and keep fighting for you where you want to be tomorrow.
Oh, very nice. Very simple. Very nice.
Yes.
I'm a big gratitude buff, so it's nice to hear that the quote is actually has some level of gratitude in it. I have a gratitude app that I write stuff in daily, and I actually have a gratitude journal and a gratitude jar. So
Oh,
gratitude
that's
is something that I
amazing.
practice consistently. I think it really helps to, just I think as human beings we complain a lot about what we don't have and what we want, and just we're not satisfied with where we are. But if we do take time, I think, to be grateful and thankful for where we are and what we do have, I believe that more will abound unto us naturally.
Absolutely. I love that, Yannick. And I love that's one of my aspirations, like where you're mentioning like journaling and writing that down. I'm very much a work in progress when it comes to that. I don't do it consistently, but I know that there's tremendous value there. And I think to your point, there are so many things happening around us that we can find ourselves saying, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing this enough, I don't have enough money, I'm not like there's so many not enoughs
Yeah.
that it just, and every single person, no matter where they are in their journey, have so many things that they can be grateful for, even in during time of real hardship. When I think finding that is even more important and even much more challenging than during the days that the things are going well. I think the more we can instill that in ourselves, I think the easier it's going to be. And I think to me, I catch myself, every day I need to move forward. Every day I need to accomplish something. Well, a day is 24 hours. It is not a whole lot of time to really do something significant. And so I think if we can continue to reflect back while we continue to build, it's going to give us in those moments, like we were saying, where it's like, oh, I feel like maybe I'm falling short, giving us that energy to really fight through whatever adversity we have or whatever challenges. It's just going to be that much more powerful. So I love that you do that very, very proactively and very intentionally. And I hope that for people who are listening, that it inspires some more of them to do that as well, because I know it's so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it is amazing. All right. Thank you so much, Sanya. Well, we just want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule for hopping on this podcast with us today and sharing all of these great gems and nuggets that I know our listeners are going to scoop up once they get the opportunity to listen to it firsthand. I know for sure I totally enjoyed this conversation, and I just wanted to express my immense gratitude to you for sharing all these
Oh,
wonderful nuggets with us.
well, thank you so much, Unique. It's a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for giving this platform. Thank you for such well thought out and thought provoking questions. It was just an honor to spend this time with you today.
Amazing. All right. Just want to remind our listeners that if you would like to join our private Facebook group, you can hop on to Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and feel free to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.